Will you be regretting or not to regret moving to Australia? There are many immigrants that struggle with a lot of things when they move to another country. So let's talk about it. Today's topic is about Australia. Happy Australia Day, by the way. And it's a land Aboriginals who originated the Great Southern Land before it was called Australia. Big credits to them. Show the love and peace towards those people who share the DNA with the Papuans, the Melanesians and Indonesians, etc. And I have videos with me saying that 10 reasons why immigrants regret moving to Australia. So let's play the video, shall we?
Have you ever thought about packing up your life and moving to Australia? It sounds like a dream, doesn't
Sounds
it?
like a fucking
Beaches, sunshine, and a fresh start in a beautiful country. But here's the thing. What if that dream doesn't turn out the way you hoped? What if it's harder than anyone told you? Every year, thousands of people move to Australia looking for a better life. But for some, the reality isn't what they expected.
That's straight out facts. Even though I was born in Australia, then really, there's nothing much to do. Like, everyone can't trust each other nowadays. Like, you don't know who's a drug dealer, you don't know who's a gang member, you don't know who is friendly or not friendly. Like, I'd rather keep my distance away from most Australians unless if they are in a happy mood, I am willing to talk to them.
It can be expensive, really expensive. Things like rent, groceries, and even a simple coffee can leave you shocked. And then there's the feeling of being far away from everyone you love, your family, your friends, your support system. That loneliness.
So that's the plan when I have to study and teach English overseas in Vietnam before I have plans to move abroad. Because like now, I'm sorry to say this, like I'm sick of a lot of people in my life in Australia and wanted to move on and want to get that hatred out of me.
It can hit hard. What makes it even tougher is that no one really talks about these challenges. Everyone
Nobody.
back home might think you're living the dream, but you're the one dealing with the stress and struggles. Don't get me
Yes.
wrong, Australia is an incredible place, but it's not always easy, and it's not.
Australia is worth visiting, but it's not worth living. In a way where every house is like far apart, and there's cities like Melbourne and Sydney are getting expensive. So it's worth visiting, but it's not worth living, like I said.
For everyone. That's why today, I want to share 10 reasons why some immigrants regret moving there. These are real stories and honest truths that you need to hear before making such a big decision. If you're thinking about moving or just curious, watch the complete video. What I'm about to share could save you a lot of heartache. Let's talk about the side of the story no one tells you. Number 1, the high cost of living.
Exactly. High cost of living is getting higher and higher in Australia. You know, there's a lot of people making complaints to other friends about their financial problems about high cost of living. But if you're dealing with me, then I don't give a fuck. It's your problem, not my problem. I can get richer as much as I can, and nobody cares if you struggle and that. So don't bring your problems to me, otherwise I'll just stop caring about anyone, like anyone in particular, still bragging about money and shit. That's your problem.
When people think of moving to Australia, they often picture a better quality of life, more opportunities, beautiful homes, and an easier lifestyle. But one thing that catches many immigrants off guard is just how expensive life in Australia can be. Let's start with housing. Whether you're renting or buying, the cost of living in most Australian cities is high. In popular places like Sydney or Melbourne, rent can take up a big chunk of your income. Even smaller cities aren't always cheap. Many immigrants find themselves spending more on housing than they ever expected, leaving less money for other essentials. Groceries and everyday items can also feel surprisingly expensive. Things like fresh fruits, vegetables, and even basics like milk or bread often cost more than they do in other countries. Eating out is no better. At a casual restaurant can make you think twice about dining out regularly. Utilities like electricity and water, they add up quickly too, especially during the hotter months when you need air conditioning just to stay comfortable. Transportation costs are another thing to think about. While public transport is decent in major cities, it's not as widespread as you might hope. And owning a car comes with its own set of costs: fuel, insurance, and maintenance. All of this can add up, leaving many immigrants feeling financially stretched. Some say they feel like they're working just to cover their bills. This doesn't mean Australia isn't worth it, but it's something to seriously think about before making the move. In the end, it's all about planning. If you're prepared for the high costs, you'll have a much smoother experience. But if you're not, it can quickly turn into a source of regret. Number 2, isolation from the rest of the world.
Hey, I understand like there's an isolation from the rest of the world in Australia, but to make friends, I think it's better to go in like social activities like sports, community center, church, etc. I know everyone's been feeling isolated and feel lonely, and I want to deeply apologize for that feeling. It is what it is. Like, you're living in a busy world, especially in Australia. No freedom at all.
One thing many people don't think about before moving to Australia is how far away it is from the rest of the world. Sure, It looks beautiful and exciting, but the distance can feel overwhelming once you're actually living there. For starters, visiting family and friends back home becomes a big challenge. Flights to most countries are not only long, but also expensive. Depending on where you're from, a single trip home could cost you thousands of dollars, and that's just for the airfare. This means you can't just hop on a plane for a quick visit when you're feeling homesick or need to be with loved ones. But it's not just about travel. Living so far away can make you feel isolated in other ways too. The time zones are very different from many countries, which makes staying in touch harder. When you're awake, your family and friends might be asleep, and vice versa. Video calls and messages don't always make up for the distance, especially during special occasions like holidays, birthdays, or family emergencies. Even if you make new friends in Australia, it's not the same as having your lifelong support system nearby. Many immigrants say that the physical and emotional distance from home hits them harder than they ever expected. And it's not just about people. Being so far away means longer shipping times and higher costs for others. The distance can be a heavy price to pay. Number 3, challenges in finding work. Many people move to Australia with hopes of landing a great job and building a better life. But finding work as an immigrant can be much harder than it seems. This is one of the biggest struggles that catches newcomers by surprise. For starters, some employers prefer candidates who have local experience. If you're new to the country, it can be frustrating to hear, do you have experience working in Australia? It's like a catch-22.
Yeah, like with Australia, you really need like resumes, cover letters, and like tell them how much experience that you have at that.
How do you get local experience if no one gives you a chance? Another challenge is that some jobs require specific certifications or licenses. Even if you have a degree or years of experience in your home country, you might need to take extra courses or exams to qualify in Australia. This process can take time.
With that, it costs so fucking much. It's unbelievable. It costs so fucking much to end up getting into a course where you have to like study before you find work. Do you know how fucking difficult that is?
Costs money, which is stressful when you're trying to settle in. Language barriers can also play a role even if you speak English.
Personally, I don't understand Australian English well because they just fuck up their sentence, no offense. They typically use like shorter phrases instead of like full phrases. And it can be difficult. Like, I prefer to speak with a full phrase and speak with a British accent. Like the olden days. Like, before, in the olden days, like, many Australian people, citizens, speak British English. You know, majority of them are English descent and other British ancestry.
The Australian accent, slang, and workplace culture can take some getting used to. You might find it hard to fully connect with colleagues or clients at first. The job market itself can also vary depending on where you live. Big cities like Sydney and Melbourne offer more opportunities, but they're also more competitive. Smaller towns may have fewer jobs available, especially in specialised fields. For some immigrants, this leads to accepting jobs they're overqualified for, just to pay the bills.
And that's the reason why I have to move. Like, I love my mum, there's no bad blood between me and my mum. I just want her to help her save up before I plan to move abroad. So yeah, I'll still be an Australian citizen, but I'm planning to get a resident to live there forever before retiring from my YouTube career.
This isn't always a bad thing. It can feel disappointing or even discouraging. The good news is, with time, effort and persistence, many people do find their place in the Australian workforce, but it's important to know that it might not happen right away and to plan for those early challenges. Number 4, struggles with the Australian accent and slang. One thing many...
I do struggle with like a lot of slangs too, like for real. I'm a bit dead ass, like I've been trying to understand some of the Australian slangs, like many of them I just haven't heard before.
Immigrants don't expect when moving to Australia is how tricky the language can be, even if you already speak English. The Australian accent and slang can catch you off guard and make communication harder than you thought. First, let's talk about the accent. Australians tend to speak quickly, and some words sound very different from how they're pronounced in other English-speaking countries. It might take time to get used to the way people talk, especially if you're trying to follow conversations in noisy places or over the phone. You might find yourself asking people to repeat themselves more often than you'd like. Then there's the slang. Australia has its own unique set of words
British
and
English.
phrases
I understand
that
that
can
more.
leave newcomers confused. For example, if someone says, "I'll bring a plate to the barbie," they're not talking
Barbecue.
about a doll. They're offering to bring food to a barbecue. Or when Aussies say, "No worries," it doesn't just mean no problem. It's a whole mindset. These language quirks can make you feel out of place at first, especially in casual conversations or at work. You might worry about saying the wrong thing or not understanding jokes and cultural references. While these struggles might seem small, they can add up and make it harder to feel confident and included. The good news is, most Australians are friendly and patient, and over time, you'll start to pick up the accent and slang naturally. Still, it's something to prepare for, especially if you're not used to this style of English. Learning a few Aussie phrases before you move can make a big difference.
Well, it's not necessary if you want to learn Aussie slang. Just learn British English. It's much easier. But like, if you learn like many Australian slangs, it's full of bollocks, man.
And help you feel more at home in no time.
Homesickness and loneliness.
Number 5, homesickness and loneliness. Moving to Australia sounds like an exciting adventure, and it is. But once the excitement fades, many immigrants find themselves feeling lonely and homesick. Being so far from family, friends, and everything familiar can hit harder than you might expect. For many, it's the small things that bring out the homesickness. The holidays don't feel the same without family gatherings, and birthdays can feel quiet when your loved ones are halfway across the world. Even something as simple as missing your favourite foods from home can make you feel like an outsider. Making new friends in Australia isn't always easy. Aussies are friendly, but building deep, meaningful relationships takes time. It's not uncommon to feel like you're stuck.
Like, we are like cats in the world, right? In Australia. Cats do need time to get to know people and other animals. Well, technically we're animals too. So it happens for a lifetime, and shit happens. You need to get to know them well.
Starting from scratch in a country where everyone else seems to already have their own social circles. Then
Yes.
there's the cultural gap. Australian humour, customs, and traditions might feel unfamiliar at first. You might find yourself feeling out of place in social situations, which can make loneliness even worse. For
Yeah.
some immigrants, the distance from loved ones becomes especially hard during tough times. When you're sick, stressed, or just need a shoulder to lean on, the realization that
A shoulder to lean on. No, I'm so sorry. It's the phrase that I've said the other time when I told them, like, if they struggle with some other problems, like, what's the problem? You got nobody's shoulder to cry on? That's the phrase that caught me off guard.
is on the other side of the world can feel overwhelming. The good news is, homesickness and loneliness usually get better with time. Joining local groups, meeting other immigrants, or connecting through hobbies can help you feel more at home. But in the beginning,
Immigrants, Australian citizens, you need some help. You need anger management. Some of you, especially, you need to be patient and relax, because like many immigrants are not used to Australia when they first arrived here. So the government has said to us, like, Australia cannot live without immigrants. They need immigrants to help the business grow, and that's what your responsibility is. Like, governments, I'm sick of you. If you just do fuck all with everything.
it's a challenge you'll need to be ready for. Moving to a new country is a brave step, but the emotional toll of being far from home is something many immigrants don't fully understand until they experience it.
Yes.
Number 6. The harsh climate.
You know how fucking dry Australia is? Like, most of the land is all dirt, all roads, all grass, lack of moisture. Like, I even get a dry throat and get pretty sick in the winter from time to time. Like, it happens for months and months. I need to adapt in a tropical area, bruh.
When people think about Australia, they often imagine perfect weather, sunny skies, warm beaches, and beautiful outdoor adventures. And while that's partly true, many immigrants are surprised by just how extreme the climate can be. First, let's talk about the heat. Summers in Australia can be brutal, with temperatures soaring past 40 degrees Celsius, 104 degrees Fahrenheit in some areas. If you're not used to such intense heat, it can leave you feeling drained and uncomfortable.
Even if I was an Australian, I would die out there. Knowing the weather is so adapted to extreme heat, like, people who originate from Australia, like the indigenous, can handle the heat. But if I was there, here, going outside in the hot weather, like, it would kill me, and like, it will give me a heat stroke. Like, the bodies are only adapted to tropical areas, like between hot and cool. Like, yeah, I can't go out when it's like no moisturizer. I need a lot of water.
Even simple things like walking outside or driving without air conditioning can become a struggle during peak summer months.
Yeah.
Then there are the natural disasters. Australia is known for its bushfires, which can be devastating during the hot, dry season. Smoke from these fires can impact air quality, even in areas far from the flames.
It's pretty common.
Flooding is another common issue in certain parts of the country, especially after heavy rains. These events can disrupt daily life and make you feel uncertain about your safety. Let's not forget about the wildlife. While Australia's unique animals are fascinating, they're also part of the environment.
Yeah.
Some
we
newcomers find it hard
we
to
need
adjust to.
marsupials such as kangaroos, koalas, and wombats, etc. to live in Australia. We can't live without marsupials.
Insects, snakes, or even magpies, which are known for
Magpies.
swooping during nesting season. For many immigrants, adapting to this harsh climate is a big challenge. It's not just about the physical discomfort, it can also impact your mood and energy.
Yeah.
Some people even find themselves spending more time indoors to escape the weather, which can add to feelings of isolation.
Yes.
Understanding Australia's climate before you move
You're not alone.
can help you prepare. With the right mindset and planning, you can adapt. But it's important
Exactly.
to know that the
That's
weather isn't
right
always as
mindset.
picture perfect
Works
as it
with
seems.
everything.
Number 7. Limited public transport outside cities. Australia's big cities like Sydney and Melbourne are known for having decent public transport systems, but what many immigrants don't realise is how limited these options can be once you move outside the major urban areas. If you're planning to live in the suburbs or smaller towns, getting around without a car can be a real challenge.
Yeah.
In smaller towns, buses and trains often don't run as frequently as you might expect. Sometimes there might only be a few buses a day, and they might not take you where you need to go. For people coming from places with extensive public transport systems, like Europe or parts of Asia, this can be a frustrating adjustment. Owning a car becomes almost a necessity, especially
Yeah.
if you have to commute to work or drop your kids off at school. But having a car adds extra costs to your budget, like buying fuel, paying for insurance,
No.
and keeping up with maintenance. For newcomers who are already trying to manage
It's not
high
worth
living
like wasting your
expenses,
money on
this can be an added financial strain.
cars or
Even
public
in
transport.
cities, public transport can have its drawbacks. Trains and buses can be crowded during peak hours, and delays aren't uncommon. Some areas, even within cities, are poorly connected, making it tough to get around without driving. This lack of convenience can be frustrating, especially
Exactly.
if you're used to getting everywhere easily by bus or train in your home country. It's something to think about when choosing where to live in Australia. While the freedom of having a car can be great, the reliance on it can feel limiting for those who prefer public transport. It's one of those hidden challenges that not everyone talks about before making the move. Number 8. The perception of a laid-back lifestyle versus reality. When people think of Australia, they often imagine a relaxed, easygoing lifestyle. You know, laid-back afternoons at the beach, barbecues with friends, and plenty of time to unwind. But
I live in Adelaide myself, so like everywhere I go, it's deja vu. I mean, it's like I've been everywhere. Like there's nothing much to do around in Adelaide, specifically. Like Adelaide's only known for good restaurants, but like going out in general is so boring. Like there's not much, or it lacks the tourist attractions. Like I said, there's not much to do.
But for many immigrants, the reality is very different, and it can come as a shock. Life in Australia, especially in the big cities, can be fast-paced and demanding. Many people work long hours to keep up with the high cost of living. It's not uncommon to feel like you're always busy, rushing between work, errands, and family responsibilities. For some, this pressure makes it hard to enjoy the relaxed lifestyle they were expecting. Financial stress can also play a big role. The cost of housing, groceries, transportation, and other essentials often forces families to budget carefully and work extra hours. Instead of enjoying more free time, some immigrants find themselves stuck in a cycle of work and bills, with little time
Yes,
left for leisure.
that's
Another
straight
thing
facts.
to consider is the competitiveness of certain industries.
Right now, I'm unemployed. I only prefer to work part-time or casual. It doesn't matter to me, but not full-time. Full-time is like you work more to earn extra money, and you don't have any free time, especially.
Finding and keeping a good job might require extra effort and constant upskilling, which can leave you feeling stressed rather than laid back. While Australians are generally friendly and easygoing, the no worries culture doesn't always apply to everyone's daily life. For immigrants, adjusting to the balance between work and personal time can be tough, especially if they were expecting something more relaxed. Of course, there are moments of calm and enjoyment, especially if you make time for them. But understanding that the laid-back lifestyle isn't always the reality can help set the right expectations and avoid disappointment. It's about finding balance and learning to enjoy the small moments in a busy life. Number 9. Health insurance costs. Australia.
Jesus, like health insurance costs is so fucking expensive. Like when you move to Australia, you're stuck here forever, and like you have to deal with shit like this, and it's fucking stressful.
Australia is known for its excellent healthcare system, but here's something that many immigrants don't realise until they arrive. Healthcare isn't completely free, and health insurance can be expensive. This can catch newcomers off guard,
I need to get
especially those coming from countries with fully subsidised healthcare systems. While Australia does have a public healthcare system called Medicare, not everyone qualifies for it right away. Many visa types don't provide access to Medicare, which means you'll need private health insurance to cover medical expenses. Even if you do qualify for Medicare, it doesn't cover everything, like dental, optical, or ambulance services. For those, you'll either have to pay out of pocket or get additional insurance. Private health insurance isn't cheap. Monthly premiums can add up quickly, especially if you're covering an entire family. On top of that, there are gap fees, which are the extra costs you might need to pay even after insurance covers part of your bill. This can make simple doctor visits, tests, or treatments more expensive than you'd expect. The costs don't stop there. If you need specialist care or hospital treatment, the bills can climb fast, particularly if you're relying on private services. Some immigrants even delay medical care because they're worried about the costs. These unexpected expenses can be stressful, especially if you're already dealing with other financial challenges like housing and transportation. It's important to research your healthcare options and include insurance in your budget before moving. While Australia's healthcare is high quality, understanding the system and planning for its costs can save you from unpleasant surprises. After all, peace of mind about your health is just as important as the move itself. Number 10. Visa and residency challenge.
That's fucking challenging, man. Visa, residency challenges. You plan to move to Australia. It takes time and time. So that's one of the major challenges of planning to moving to Australia, especially like to the illegal immigrants who stuck in Australia for a long time that have to go through this bullshit.
One of the biggest hurdles immigrants face when moving to Australia is dealing with the visa and residency process. It's not just complicated, it can also be stressful, expensive, and time-consuming. To start, getting a visa to live and work in Australia isn't always straightforward. There are many...
I'm going to be the first Australian citizen of Vietnamese descent to become a reverse immigrant when it comes to moving to Asia, like my hometown where my parents are originated from, Vietnam. And yeah, it's pretty challenging. If there as well, you needed time to like sign up the paper for residency.
Types of visas, each with its own rules and requirements. Whether it's a skilled work visa, a student visa, or a family visa, the process often involves a lot of paperwork, proof of qualifications, and meeting strict conditions. For many, it feels overwhelming just trying to figure out which visa is the right one. Even after you get your visa, the challenges don't stop. Some visas are temporary, which means you have to renew them or apply for permanent residency after a few years. This can be costly and stressful, especially if immigration policies change while you're already living in Australia. Unfortunately, policies can shift quickly, leaving immigrants uncertain about their future. Then there's the waiting game. The process to apply for permanent residency or citizenship can take years, with no guarantees. During this time, many people feel like their lives are on hold, unable to fully settle or plan for the future. On top of all this, visa applications often come with high fees. When you add the cost of medical exams, police checks, and other requirements, it can be a major financial burden. For many immigrants, the uncertainty and expense of the visa process lead to regret. It's important to go in with a clear understanding of what's required and to be prepared for delays and unexpected challenges. While Australia is an amazing place, navigating the visa process can feel like a marathon, but for those who persist, the rewards can be worth it. Moving to a new country is one of the biggest decisions you can make, and Australia, with all its beauty and opportunities, often feels like the perfect choice. But as we've seen, it's not without its challenges. From the high cost of living and visa struggles to homesickness and cultural differences, there are realities that immigrants often face once they arrive. This doesn't mean Australia isn't worth it, it absolutely can be. But it's important to go in with open eyes and realistic expectations. Knowing the potential challenges ahead can help you prepare and avoid surprises, giving you a better chance at making your move a success. At the end of the day, every journey is unique, and what feels overwhelming for one person might be manageable for another. The key is preparation, patience, and a willingness to adapt. With time,
willingness to adapt as well.
Many immigrants do find their place and thrive in this amazing country. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe to State Seeker.
Okay, I know this is an irrelevant topic, but like the British that came to Australia have done well by building a lot of houses. That's the pros, like, and buildings for business and many restaurants. But the con is they destroyed a lot of home that is belonging to Aboriginals. From the bottom of my heart, I want to apologize to the Aboriginal for that situation. I wasn't born yet, but like, I just hope that many of them can go to a place that is more safe and help them live longer. And there's a hometown up north in Territory, so you'll feel a lot safer there. So yeah, that is the video of me reacting to why immigrants, and especially you, will regret moving to Australia. And we have to negotiate with the adaptation, the people there, and like social connection. Many of them are antisocial, but I'm not antisocial myself, but I can be social whenever everyone respects me, then I'll respect them. Like, you might talk to me like an asshole, then I don't respect you. Simple as that. But anyways, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will upload another video as much as I can before leave YouTube, and upload a lot of vlogging in Vietnam as well before retiring on December 2025. And hope that video helps you to understand that like regretting moving to Australia can be very difficult. So yeah, get me up to 1,000k. I'll wait for 1,000 and like continue my YouTube career and see how it goes. And other than that, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.